Welcome to another day of the Bible and Beauty Challenge. And I realized on the last video I did not share about the hair portion of it, which is what I started off with when I began the challenge. And because it was a 30-day challenge, that portion of the challenge I have completed. Which was to wear my hair in a, wear my hair in a ball every day for 30 days. What I'm doing now is actually based on this new rhythm that the Lord has revealed to me about my hair. Actually, 3 elements to this cycle that I do, and I share a little bit in depth about it on my website. You can go to my shop, Pink, Peach, and Cream, and discover more on what I'm actually doing with my hair and why the texture is different. I don't know if you can tell, but it has improved, and it's because of what I'm doing that the Lord revealed to me you have to be doing with your hair. Lives and feeds and thrives off of these 3 things. I just completed 2 Kings, and it's just as fascinating as 1 Kings. 2 Kings goes more into the ministry of Elisha, and I say his name, Elisha, pronounced like this, because I did some research and discovered there are so many different types of ways to pronounce his name and his mentor's name. I finally discovered someone who broke down the Hebraic way of why these names should be pronounced as such. And it made complete sense because, of course, I'm studying Hebrew, so I understand what he's saying, and I will put his information right here along with his name and the link to his information. It made the most sense because everyone has all kinds of wild ways to pronounce his name. So I am going to take from what I learned from this man and pronounce it Elisha. We learn about Elisha's ministry, and it actually is even more potent and powerful than Elisha's ministry because he asked for a double portion. Now, he didn't just ask for the double portion and it was given to him. He had to wait all the way into Elisha transition from this world to the next, and he told him, the thing you asked is very, very difficult, but if you see me transition, you will have what you asked for. And so if you translate that into modern terms and modern concepts or ideology, that means that if you stay with something to the end, if you stay under being mentored until the end, if you stay under a anointing until the end, you will receive the same, not before, but until the end. Not even during. I mean, we don't experience Elisha performing any miracles, performing any wondrous works until after his mentor passed on. So he didn't get it before, he didn't get it during, he got it after. And so I thought that was insightful. Things that we're seeking and wanting, especially if they're nestled in someone else, we need to be with them until the end in order to receive it. That's the pattern that God has set up for us. In addition, we hear about the little maid. We hear about the little maid that leads her mistress's husband to get healed by Elisha. And it is so amazing that her name isn't even recorded. We don't even know who she is, where exactly she came from, what her family's like, what the rest of her life was like, her destiny, none of that. We just know her specific purpose. And it was only mentioned that she was the maid of the mistress. So they called her the Little Maid. And that's all, the only title we have of her in English. And so looking at her purpose, it wasn't great. I know many of us want something big, something great, something enormous, something powerful. But yet, first, the Bible makes a point to say that she was little, the opposite of all these things we're naming and claiming. And she only said one thing, one sentence, and some servants overheard it and told it to their master, which is her mistress's husband, and he checked it out. She only said, oh, that my master would go into the land and to the prophet to be healed, because he had leprosy. And so she didn't say, oh, I'm a servant here, I'm a maid, I don't care about these people, I'm just going to serve and plan my way out. No, she served not only faithfully, but she wanted their well-being. Now, don't mistake me. Slavery back then is different from slavery today. Slavery today, very horrific. Slavery back then was a way to sell oneself into bond serving another until your debt was paid off. And they didn't have like wicked and cruel and forbearing masters. It wasn't the norm. It wasn't common. They had decent supervisors, as you can say if you translate it into today, decent employers. It wasn't known to be a atmosphere of wickedness. So she actually desired the well-being of those who were over her. And so that was interesting in and of itself. So anyway, the man, based on her one statement, her one understanding of knowledge of who Elisha was and his authority in the Lord, that it sent him to go get healed. We may not know her name, but what she did was recorded. Who she was as a supporter and someone who gave, in a sense that she gave pertinent information to pivot one to healing. She was very important, but she didn't have a big ministry. She didn't have a big name. She didn't have a big following. But yet the Bible makes mention of her and how important her one sentence was in changing this man's life for the rest of his life. I thought that was so humbling and important, so that when we start something, whether it's a business or a ministry or even a job for someone else, that we don't think, oh, it's got to be enormous. Why don't we seek God? How can my service in this facility be pivotal? How can it be penetrating? How can it be effective? That's even more important than big and enormous and monumental. So that's what I got out of that interaction. I also discovered this book is the first book that I've read that mentions the term Jews, which was interesting. They've been using Hebrews all this time, and then finally we are acquainted with the label of Jews for the first time in this book. Then, to add on to the Little Maid story, which makes it even more interesting and kind of profound, is that the man who was sent by his servants to go seek out this prophet Elisha to be healed, his name was Naaman. A kind of pun on the word name in English. Elisha gave him a simple instruction, one simple instruction to go be healed, and that was to go wash in the Jordan, dip 7 times, and then you'll be healed. Well, Naaman got it into his mind that instruction was so simple, too simple for him. He expected, wow, first of all, Elisha didn't come out and greet him. Elisha sent his servant to meet him to give him the instruction. He didn't even go see him. So Naaman was already kind of insulted that he didn't come out with great pomp and etc. Not only that, he sent his servant to tell him the instruction, and the instruction was too simple. He said, whoa, aren't there better rivers and lakes and waters in the land that I come from? And he tells me to go in the Jordan, this little place where the Hebrews live? He wants me to go get healed there? I'm not doing it. So his servants actually talked him into getting his healing. His servants said, hey, if he gave you some big, complex, intricate instruction, wouldn't you have followed that? This is yet simple. Why don't you do it? And so they convinced him, he did it, and he was healed. And I wonder how many of us today think the same. Think that, wow, the thing has got to be so complex, so profound, so intricate that that's God. But if it's so simple, if it comes from a maid, if it comes from a servant, if it comes from just passing by, that's not God. Do we think that way? Do we miss God because his whispers are so quiet that they don't come with a microphone or a bullhorn or with great pomp? That was also an insightful story to read. And then we have the story of the woman who Elisha performed many miracles with, and he instructed her, hey, there's a famine coming, so why don't you leave your land for a period of time and then return when it's over. So she left her land for 7 years, and when the famine was over, she came back. She was desiring to get her house and her land back again because 7 years had passed. Now, in the meantime, the king had heard about all the miracles that this prophet was performing and had asked the prophet's servant to come and tell him about all the miracles of Elisha. And so he was rehearsing them to the king, and the king was just amazed. He was so interested in these stories. And yet, at the same time, this woman comes to the king to ask him for her land back again. And I find that, isn't it so interesting? The things that God has put in your heart and prepared you to ask someone for, to go seek after, he's already prepared that person or that place or that entity for your asking. So when she came to ask, the king was already acquainted with her story, with all the miracles that were performed by the prophet who told her to leave in the first place. And so the servant recognized her and said, hey, this is the woman I was just telling you about. And the king asked her, is this so? And she told him everything. And he said, not only am I going to restore your land to you, restore to your house to you, but I'm going to restore to you all of the interest, all of the profit, all of the yield of the land that occurred during the 7 years you were gone. So she not only got her initial investment back that she had left for some time, but she got all of the profits that came off of that initial investment up until today. And so I especially find that story so encouraging, to tell us whatever we've lost due to an instruction of the Lord, that the Lord is going to not only restore that thing, but give us all of the profit and interest that has been accumulating on that thing since we lost it. And especially penetrates my heart because I have experienced the exact same thing, and it's been 5 years actually. So I want to complete this session or this time with you of this Bible challenge by sharing this scripture with you. 1 Kings 21, 5 through 8. And he built towers for all the host of heaven in the 2 courts of the house of the Lord. And he made his son pass through the fire, and observed times, and used enchantments, and dealt with familiar spirits and wizards. He wrought much wickedness in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. And he set a graven image of the grove that he made in the house of which the Lord said to David and to Solomon his son, in this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, will I put my name forever. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them, and according to the law that my servant Moses commanded them. 2 Kings 23, 24 and 25. Moreover, the workers with familiar spirits, and the wizards, and the images, and the idols, and all the abominations that were spied in the land of Judah and Jerusalem, did Josiah put away, that he might perform the words of the law which were written in the book that Hilkiah the priest found in the house of the Lord. And like unto him there was no king before him that turned to the Lord with all of his heart, and with all of his soul, and with all of his might, according to all the law of Moses, neither after him arose there any like him. Now have put together all that information in a very beautiful, pretty ebook. And if you're interested in that, I will have a link down below to my website, which offers this ebook.